Hey, what's up guys? This is TBone here. So here's another video on Gemstone Legends, but today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the pre-patch notes for 0.36 that has just been released on Reddit, and there's also a Google Docs version of it if you can't access Reddit, so I will have the link to that in the description as well. So what I want to do is I want to talk about the patch notes because there's a lot of changes that are coming next week, and so what I wanted to do is kind of go over those and then show you sort of side by side, the notes and where it gets impacted so that we could be prepared for the changes that are about to happen. So this video may take a little bit longer just because I'm going through all of the different notes, and I'll talk about it, I'll give some reactions to it as well, and sort of like what I think. But we'll kind of go through one by one. So first, there's the PvP thresholds. And so what they're saying here is that for higher leagues, the arenas are reduced. So they're aware that reaching the Challenger League was very difficult, and it now requires just 3,400 points instead of 4,000. And so that means if you wanted to reach the highest tier of the PvP, it is now going to be easier for you to obtain. And just for reference, if you take a look at the current top ranking player, the person is still at 3,100, not yet at the 30, not even 3,200 yet. And so they've lowered it so that it becomes a little bit easier to obtain. Otherwise, if you think about it, that's a lot of trophies that you have to get just to get to the Challenger threshold. And so that is the one change that they're making. Another change that they're going to have is inventory cap. And so what they're doing is they're increasing the slots from 500 to 600 for your equipment. So if you take a look at equipments right now, the current limit is at 500, and they've updated it to 600 because there's going to be some changes incoming for the inboxes as well. So far, I think for the PvP change and for the inventory cap, these are relatively good changes for the players. At least it makes it easier for you to obtain higher tiers, and increased inventories is always a good thing. Then they talk about level progression and cycle end rewards. So what they want is they want to, they would love for that your in-game activity to be counted toward event progression. And so, for example, if you need to get gems and whatnot, anything that you get from anywhere will count toward the event as well. So it just makes it easier for you to complete your event, which is another nice change there. And then let's take a look at some of the minor changes they talk about. So they changed the loading screen, they fixed the leader ability values, so that they have some errors and discrepancies. So like these are more just like defects, visual defects that they're changing, and so those are the minor things, okay? And these are going to be, and these are what they're saying is going to be available next week once the game updates. And so there's a lot in here, right? So let's go through them. Now let's talk about some of the big changes that are coming. First one, Prime for iOS. So you see here, Gemstone Prime, this is an option that you can get, but if you're on iOS today, there is no option for you to subscribe to it. Gemstone Prime allows you, it gives you a lot of boosts, right? It gives you 20% boost for your hero XP, 20% to your coins that you collect, 20% boost to your energy, and it gives you plus 50 multi-battles per day as opposed to the 15 that you get, and you get free gold scrolls as well. And so it's a nice sort of daily gift that you get, and now they're going to make it available for Prime. For iOS, which wasn't before, so that was good. If you're looking to get it, now you have the option to do so. And so then PvP, they're also making changes to the PvP in addition to the tiers. Okay, so in addition to the threshold, they're also reducing the number of tokens from 10 to 5. So right now, you have 10 tokens daily to use. All right. It's going to take now 90 minutes to spawn to regenerate instead of the current time frame. And then they are also giving you a daily quest to give you 5 tokens as a reward, because now we're dropping the tokens from 10 to 5, and they're going to be in your inbox so you can use it whenever you want. You're also going to see only 5 enemies now instead of 10, and so that means that you'll have fewer opponents to select from and to refresh. So you need to refresh more often if you have opponents that you cannot complete. So that one is going to be a little bit interesting because I think it'll make it a little bit harder in general to compete. And then they will make it so that you you try not to see enemies that you've already faced before, so they're going to try and give you new opponents each time. And then they're also going to give you, like I said, a point number 6, they've already reduced the threshold. And number 7, they're boosting the amount of the arena damage. So after 30 turns, there's going to be a boost in your damage, and it's going to go from 3.33% boost to 10% boost per turn. The idea is they don't want the battle to be really drawn out, so they're going to give you more and more damage. And that says by turn 40, you're going to be dealing 200% of the damage. And so the idea is you should be able to finish the fight faster in case it becomes more of a stalemate. And they have fixed some bug fixes where they wanted the offense and the defense tabs to be 2 separate lists that don't depend on each other. And so they are fixing a bug where you weren't able to attack an opponent in the offense tab if you went to the history tab and did a revenge. And so this is where you can do revenge, and they've made it so that now there's a fix for it, so that if you did a revenge before, you'll still be able to attack normally. Okay, so that's a bug fix. Mercy system. This is something that a lot of people have been asking for, have talked about, and I think that this is going to be a really good change here. And so what they're doing here is they're saying that, hey, this is something that you've been asking for, suggestions, and here is the mercy system. So what it is after summoning using your scrolls a certain amount of times, you're going to get then, they're going to guarantee you a certain tier of reward based on the number of scrolls you use. For example, so if you pull bronze, if you use 3 scrolls and then you get nothing but commons, then you're going to be guaranteed an uncommon the very next pull. And then after 50, then you're guaranteed to get 1 rare. That is if you don't pull a rare beforehand. So the idea with Mercy system is this is the maximum number of scrolls that you will use before you get a guaranteed item of that particular rarity. So it's really good for bronze because generally bronze is one of those scrolls that everybody can get easily. So that means cumulatively, if you pulled 49 and you haven't pulled a rare, then after 50th, you're going to get after 50 scrolls, if you haven't gotten a rare, then the 51st scroll is going to be a guaranteed rare. Okay. And then for silver, you're going to be guaranteed a rare unit after pulling 13. All right. So you can see I have 91, so I can guarantee myself to get a few rare units using the silver for sure. But to get epic, it's going to be required 200 scrolls. So you need to pull cumulatively 200 scrolls. If you haven't hit an epic, then you will get an epic after 200. Now for gold, it's 13 for an epic. So you can get 13 rare. On the 14th pull, it'll be a guaranteed epic. And then same thing for legendary, it'll be 200 before you get legendary. And then for platinum, if you haven't pulled a legendary after 13 scrolls, then you will be getting a legendary. And they also went on to describe how it works here. So they count each scroll separately. All right. So that means if you pulled a legendary hero from a gold scroll, like if you pulled a gold, got a legendary from gold scroll, it doesn't actually reset your mercy for platinum scrolls. Okay. And so that's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing, because it's not that as long as you pull a legendary, everything resets. That's not the case. So you could be at, let's say 12 scrolls for platinum. You haven't gotten a legendary yet. And then you happen to pull a legendary from a gold scroll. Well, your platinum will stay at 12. Your counter stays at 12. That means you can just pull a couple more and you're guaranteed to get a legendary. And so that in itself is a really nice change. In terms of the number of scrolls that's required to guarantee a legendary for gold, I feel like 200 seems like a little bit high. I think, for me, I think, probably would have been better at like a 150, 160. But that's the number that they have right now. And so at least it's a guarantee. So better than before, right? And it also doesn't change any of the chances, okay? And so, but what it doesn't change the chances, but what they do say is that increasing the chances is always at the expense of the lowest possible result. And so what that means is when you increase the chance of getting a legendary character, it's done at the cost of reducing the chance of a rare hero, not an epic. So that means, like, for a gold, you actually have lesser chance of pulling the rare, and you will not have any impact to the epic. So that's also another nice change. Like, what they've done is they've made sure that the mercy system doesn't actually hurt you for the middle tier heroes that you can pull. And so this is the mercy system again. Like, this didn't exist before, they're introducing now. Maybe this is still up for tweaks in the future, but for now, I think this is a really good change, just because for you, like for people who are constantly pulling over time, you can expect yourself to have, you can expect to have a guaranteed item at least, okay? Because I have heard stories of people just pulling hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of scrolls and not getting what they want. At least this way, there is at least one guarantee. But it doesn't stop you from getting anything in between. It just means that if you pulled, let's say, a legendary after 100 pulls, it resets. It resets to 200 again. So that's just something you need to understand about how Mercy system works. So that's Mercy, and then they also have a change to artifact filter. So if you take a look at your artifacts today, if you go to equipment, there's really no way to do any filtering. So if you wanted to do something, you can't. Okay, and so now they've introduced this new filter system. So you can filter based on the equipment type, the set. You can based on the rarity. You can you can also filter based on all kinds of different stats that it boosts, a bunch of different combinations that you might want to do, and that will allow you to quickly, or not quickly, more effectively filter, to just see what you want or what you don't want. If you wanted to bulk sell, for example, being able to filter everything here and then just sell them all is going to be a really big thing. And so I think that's a really good change. So this is the artifact filter that's coming the next update. I think that's a great change. All right. And then we have this inbox rework. Now, this one is going to be a little bit controversial. Right. So what we've got is a inbox system. Right now, you can see I did a bunch of hero pulls, and everything that goes beyond your inventory count goes into the inbox here, and you can keep it for 99 days, and you can sort of choose when you want to use it. So I found it to be a really effective way to do a bunch of summoning in the very beginning, because I don't have a lot of space and I can just kind of pick my time to use it. Well, now they're changing it. So what are they doing? So heroes and artifacts aren't going to land in the inbox anymore. All right. What they're saying is, if your hero collection is full, so if you go in here and then your inbox is already full and your storage is full, well, what happens is you will not be able to do summoning anymore. So what that says is, when you try and summon, you're probably going to get an error message saying your inventory is full. So you have to either add some room in the storage, or you have to move them into storage, and you have to open up space. That's the only thing you can do. All right. And if you have a full artifact inventory, you're also not going to be able to obtain more artifacts. And that's why they've increased the total number of inventory count for artifacts from 500 to 600. But what they've said is, whatever is in your inbox right now is not going to disappear. And so one thing that you might consider is use that to your advantage right now, and before they implement the change. But then if you're doing a bunch of pulls now, you are sacrificing the fact that you could potentially benefit from the mercy system, and so that's going to be a trade-off for you. All right. So this one, I know that is going to be a little bit of it's more controversial. I think that definitely, the current way that it's implemented is one of the best systems I've seen, in these sort of games as far as inventory is concerned. And so changing this is going to cause a lot of problems. As you can see, I do have a lot of heroes right now, and so I will have to open up inventory. And right now, if you wanted to open up inventory, you can open in two ways, right? You can open up the inventory itself, which costs either gems or gold, or you can open up more capacity in your storage, and again, you can use gems or gold. And so my recommendation is you should probably open up some space anyway, and then try to manage it that way. So this is the change that is coming. Let me know in the comment below what you think about the inbox work. There's definitely a lot of conversations taking place about it already. They're also changing some in-game, new game animations. So I don't know what they're going to be like yet, but you're going to see new animations for heroes with full stamina, enemy bars with full stamina, new effects on how you do attacks with gemstones, and they're going to stack a ball of energy when you match gemstones, and if you match more, the ball becomes bigger. New animation for death, enemies appearing, boss fight indicator. You're going to have more special gemstone animations, and also when you match gemstones on the board, you're going to see new effects. So expect a bunch of new animations. I hope that this doesn't change the way that your the speed and the performance of your matches. Animation is always good, always cool, but I just want to make sure I don't know what it's going to be like when it comes out. We'll have to pay attention to whether that significantly slows down your gameplay. So that's something to watch out for. But overall, I think that it'll look kind of cool. Another sort of really interesting and more controversial change here is the speed rework. Now, this has been talked about for a while, so I don't think this is new to a lot of people, but we, like they've talked about rebalancing speed. So speed is this stat on your users, on your heroes to indicate how quickly they will be able to attack, and it has such a huge meta to have as much speed as possible, and so the faster your units, the more they're going to attack, right? And so they're balancing this, and so the change that they're making is they are boosting the base speed of all heroes to double. And so Alexander, for example, has a speed of 101. After this update, it's going to be boosted up to 202. Okay, so they're doubling the base speed for all heroes, and then you add on whatever from your equipment, etc. And so the idea here is that they're going to cause your slower heroes to be more effective, like they're not going to be just like left in the dust. And what they're saying is they're basically weakening the super fast builds. If you have a build that is full of high speed heroes and high speed sets, then you're going to have a lesser sort of, your advantage is not going to be so overwhelming. So they're trying to sort of dial it in. And that is what they're saying. And they said that this is, this obviously required them to rework the balance of the entire game. And they said that although things didn't change much if it came to difficulty level from what they've tested. So they said that they've tested every mode, and but you should expect some changes to what you're used to seeing. Because of the change to the speed, the Swift set bonus has also been adjusted now. So it used to be a 25% bonus to your speed. It is now set to 12%. Okay, so if you're using a lot of Swift sets, it is going to be changed. So expect that to change your gameplay for sure. You have to make adjustments as well. They've also made a list of hero adjustments to Lethai, Galantor, Amara, Floki, Maharod, and Gladiosa. All of these units, you can see their old description and the new description. So it basically halved. Okay, if you take a look at their passive ability, so speed increased by 10 for Lethai, it is now increased by 5%. No changes to the damage, but you can see Galantor went from 18% to 9%, and then Amara went from 25 to 15. So it's not exactly half, but it is, they've reduced some of their skills for sure. All right, so you can expect these units that were, I guess, overpowered in the current meta, they're going to be a little bit weaker after this change. So that is the hero adjustments as well as the speed rework. So some of these heroes were adjusted because of the speed change. And this one I actually like. So there's going to be a mana gain change. So when you play in a battle, okay. So whenever you play a battle, when you do an attack, what happens is when you do an attack, all of your allies will benefit from the gems as well. So if I brought in, for example, an all earth team, or all green team, for example, when I do a green gem match, everyone gets a pot of gets a lot of they get the same bonus. It's, matching green gems will power up pretty much the entire team. And what they're saying is they're looking to reduce that sort of effectiveness a little bit. And so now if you have 5 heroes in the given color now, so like the one I have set right now, your allies will only gain 32% of the mana in instead of what they have now. And then the fewer heroes you have for a given color, the better it's going to be. So 32% at 5 heroes, 38% at 4 heroes, 44% with 3 heroes, and 50% with 2 heroes. And so that just means going with a single color for your team is going to be slightly harder for you to activate all. Basically, it's going to be slightly harder for you to activate all of their skills depending on the number of gems that you can match. So you're going to have to match more gems in order to get more mana gain, which could mean, heroes like Rhonda. So heroes like Rhonda that provides, board king that gives you 1 extra turn to match could become a lot more effective. You might see that kind of meta more often because now they can do additional turns to match additional gems, so that you can basically power them easier to counteract the fact that it's going to give you less mana for each match if you're running single affinity. Now, personally, I like that. I like the fact that they're making it harder to just run a single affinity team. Like, this encourages more creativity in having different heroes on the board. And in some respects, what they're saying is you could have a more effective team if you don't go with all single color, because they can activate their skills a little bit faster. And so that's just something to that I think is good. But just want to make sure you're aware of how this might change your meta and how this might change your gameplay. And then also there's going to be a change to the leader ability boost. So the value of the leader abilities is going to be now increased to keep your gameplay balanced. And so if you take a look right now, these are the values you're going to see, where if you have a leader that gives a certain sort of boost to attack, defense, health, whatever, these are going to be the new values. So at 3 stars, for example, you have 20% attack increase. So let's take a look, right? So if we take a look at Alexander, for example, at 5 stars, he gives a 20% boost to defense. And now for a 5-star defense, it is going to be boosted up to 32%. Okay, so this is going to be sort of like the change here. So all of your leaders are going to be more effective because now speed is going to be a little bit reduced. Some of the heroes are going to be slightly less effective, but in contrast, your leader ability gets updated, it gets a boost here. So then you will see you're really sort of changing sort of like how the interactions work now between your setup, right? Running a full single affinity team is going to be less effective, and speed is going to be less of a sort of an OP overpowering meta. And so now we have a better leader boost here. So all of this, I think, just it's a lot of changes. It is a lot of changes, but overall, I think that it doesn't seem like negative, because it seems like while they've lowered some areas, they've brought up some others, and that is really what balancing is all about. So I'm okay with the changes so far. Color affinity extension. So again, one change is dragging another along. So because of the mana gain changes that they're doing, the color affinity now has to be extended, so you're not going to feel a difference in rifts. For example, now if you have a color advantage against another opponent, you will get an additional 15% critical rate, 30% of critical damage, and then 30% resistance. So you're going to be stronger now if you go up against a unit that you're strong against, and you're going to become weaker if you have color disadvantage, because now you're going to reduce your 15% of critical rate, 30% of critical damage, and 30% resistance. And so because they made it less effective to use your single affinity, they balanced it by making sure that you're stronger. So you could still run it. You're going to be a little bit stronger, but it's going to be harder for you to get your mana gain. And so that is the balance that they're doing because of that. All right. They made some other adjustments. So they made accuracy on all rifts to be increased, all resistance in rifts to be increased, because you're now going to have a harder time against your opponent, against the bosses. All your rift enemies attack and defense, they have also been increased by 10%, and also 10% in campaign. Everything is increased there, like their MG has been increased by 20% on Nightmare and Hell, and then the Phoenix speed has been reduced a little bit. So Phoenix is units that you would see, I think, in is it Lorite Halls, right? So you'll see that they are going to be it's not Lorite Halls, I think Ampersense or Oasis. Anyway, we will take a look, and in the level here it is. So in Cardinal Oasis, for example, you have the Phoenix. The speed is going to be a little bit reduced, so then easier to deal with. And Rift's regular enemies, MG has now been increased also by 25%. Okay, and now there's another big change here. So all of your Battle 7 bosses now. So every campaign you go to, when you go to Battle 7, right? So if you want to go to, for example, Fallen Leaf Woods, you're going to be going up against the dragon. Well, the dragon will now, in addition to having the restore 15% of the target max HP to all allies, for example, like it made it a lot easier to play against. They've now added new passive ability. All of them will have immune to silence, stun, freeze, and sleep. Okay. Now this is only for Battle 7, not the other battles. But this is going to make your battles harder. So if you have not gone through all the campaigns yet, expect it to be more difficult. That is definitely a change that is going to make it harder for those of us who have not yet completed everything. So it also sort of changes some of the guide that I've been creating for how to go through them. So that's something that we're gonna have to deal with also. So again, I think for the sake of the game itself, like it's nice, like they make it a little bit tougher so that you have something to work towards. I think that will generate a lot of different strategies also, because they are immune to some of these skills that I'm sure is overused in all situations. So we will definitely be exploring more there. They're also changing the status. This is another one that is going to be quite a big change actually. So if you take a look at some of the units that have bleed or poison, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you one right now. Let's go into this one. So we'll change this out, and we will go into a team that is a single affinity. So here is, for example, a team that can use bleed. So Jumoke, for example, does bleed, and what happens when he uses the skill, the bleed status is activated as a guarantee, and then at the end of the turn, then the bleed damage that takes place. So you can see here there's bleed, and then if I don't actually end up taking out all the enemies, I have to wait until the next turn before it applies. Well, what they're doing is they're now triggering this at the beginning of the turn. So that means like bleed, which takes out 5% of the health, will activate at the very, very beginning instead of the end. And so you could change the fight too. So like, if it used to be that, you would activate bleed and it doesn't necessarily kill the opponent, and you sort of like play along, and then afterwards, maybe you deal some addition, maybe then it deals the damage, maybe it kills the boss, maybe it doesn't. Well, it activates at the very beginning now. So you could technically kill the boss or kill the enemies earlier. You will indeed kill them earlier if that was going to be the case. So it changes the mechanic a little bit, and it can change the way it plays. But because of that, they're also they're balancing the damage. Okay, so bleed now will go from 5% to 4%, poison goes from 6% to 5%, and burn goes from 7% to 6%. So if you're using the dragon, vermin, for example, which does bleed, burn damage, your overall damage is going to drop from 7% to 6%. And so this is, I think it's also going to change a little bit of the meta, like a little bit about the way that the games are played, because this will mean like some of these statuses will become more effective in certain situations and more desirable as well. So I think that's a pretty good change. And in addition to that, they also changed the way that the speed increase and the speed decrease, they changed how it works. So they also made it to happen right at the beginning of the turn. So like whenever you activate speed increase, it immediately changes the speed of your opponent right away. So it doesn't change it afterwards. You will see you'll immediately see the change as soon as it activates. They also changed the decreased defense status. Okay, so they've decreased that status value to go from minus 65% to minus 50%. So it makes it it's a little bit of a nerf. Okay, so whereas before you could cause your opponent to have a decreased value of negative 65, it is now only negative 50. But they've also they've increased the they've also increased the health of the bosses. They've decreased the health of the bosses a little bit. Okay, so they've decreased the health a little bit. They made the decreased defense a little bit weaker, but they also reduced the health to balance it so that if you're grinding for artifacts, it will be not impacted as much. All right, moving right along. Like I said, there's a ton of stuff here, and I will have in my description. I will have the timestamp for each of these, so you can skip ahead to talk about to hear me talk about any of these things. So raid bosses, they're changing the difficulty of raid bosses because what they've seen is there are a lot of players in the top level guilds that easily fight 6-star, 6-level bosses, so it's not a challenge anymore. Well, what they're doing is they're going to make this super difficult so that it's going to be a real endgame contender. And the idea is you might actually start dropping bosses. So you might actually drop down until you can hit that sweet spot again. The idea is to give a challenge to everybody. And so they're increasing the difficulty of the highest tier of the raid bosses for everyone. Okay, there's also a wiki on the status and skill description, so you can take a look over it as well. They're introducing an overkill mechanic. So overkill mechanic is a really good change because it used to be when you go into the guild boss right now, if people have killed it, right? If people went ahead and attacked it, I'm actually going to go ahead and do a fight right now as we speak because the change has not been implemented and the boss is about to die, right? So what happens here is if you are late to the game and the boss is dead, well, you can no longer deal enough damage to collect your general chest. And general chest is the only way that you can get your caster equipment. So overkill mechanic allows anybody in the guild to come in and deal damage to the boss even though it has already been defeated. And so this allows you to deal as much damage as you want right off the start, and it won't impact you because you can still qualify for your general chest. The idea here is there's always a threshold for the amount of damage you need to deal before you can qualify for those chests, and not getting the general chest has always been an issue for the higher level guilds, and so this is a really, really good change. They're also changing a little bit about the resistance of the raid boss. So what they're doing is it used to have 75% resistance that could not be lowered. Okay, so it didn't really make sense for you to boost your accuracy stat. They're making it so now it is adjustable. So now you can have different setups to deal more damage to your raid boss, and that kind of comes hand in hand with the fact that it is going to be more difficult. So I think this is a change that makes sense. They're also doing something different now with how you collect your rewards. And so what you're going to see here is you're going to get your boss's level to go up, but then if it doesn't get defeated, it's going to go down. Okay, so that's the first change. And the second one is they're changing the reward. So it used to be that you will, let's see, so as raid bosses difficulty increase, they're also going to offer more rewards. So they've gotten rid of all uncommon, common 1-star and 2-star gears now on the early level. So you're immediately going to get rare 3-star and higher. So that is really good for new guilds that are starting out. You're going to get much better gears to begin with. Okay, so you're going to get a minimum rare 3-star, which is awesome. So you don't have to farm as much. It's easy for you to get something. Okay, and now they're going to have 4 tiers here, like 0 to 50%, 51 to 75% of the health. Tier 2 is almost 76% and 99% of the health HP of the boss destroyed. And then tier 1 is you've actually defeated the boss. Okay, so these are the 4 different tiers that determine the amount of what tier of chest you're going to get. They're changing it now so that you can only get your caster equipment if you defeat a boss. So this is the one change that they've made, okay? You can only get caster set by defeating a boss, but now you're going to get 2 instead of 1. Okay, and then below these are the different artifact rates and the chance of obtaining them at different levels. And so right now we are at 3-star level 5, I think. And so, for example, for us, we are, we will then expect to get 4-star artifact rate, and with a chance of getting a 5-star. All right, so this is a table that kind of indicates the new chances for what kind of artifacts you'd be getting. And like I said, you're going to only get the caster set. You're only going to get the caster set from defeating the boss. And here is one final change: your caster set modification. So they're changing it so that it goes from +4 to +2. So now you only need to equip 2 to get the mana gain, but then they've changed the mana gain from equipping it to +1. Okay, and I can show you what that is afterwards. So I'll probably be finishing relatively soon, anyways. So they're going to reduce it from +4 to +2. Okay, and they said that it's going to force people to re-gear some of the heroes, and recognize that because there's going to be a lot of people that have already gone, full caster build. They're going to have to reduce 2 of them, and because of that, they're going to reduce the gear removal cost to 0, which is really good because right now it costs money to remove the gears, and removing it to 0 is a good change. And in the future, they're also going to add regular events that's going to remove the cost of unequipping gear. So that means if you generally are not, like tweaking your equipment constantly, like, equipping and unequipping, then it's going to be a good thing for you, because then you can wait for an event that takes place. Then you can go ahead and wait for it to be free, and then you can then change your equipment for free. So that's going to be a good change. And now we can take a look at the caster set. So caster set is a +4, and it used to be that you'll get +4 for putting all of them, but now equipping a 2 set gives you +1. So that means technically you could go all 6. You could do 6 mana gain, and then you can get your mana gain up to 3. So it is going to be a little bit weaker. Okay, definitely a little bit weaker than before, but it is sort of, the way that they're trying to balance the game a little bit. And that is the end of the changes. Okay, so that is all the changes here. And so my overall impressions are all of these changes feel like, for the most part, are good for the community. I like the rebalancing. I like the changes that they're making. I'm not a huge fan of removing the fact that we can add things into the inbox, because that is going to really force a lot of issues with, mass summoning, right? If I wanted to summon all of my if I wanted to use up all 92 scrolls right now, I now need to make sure that I have at least 92 spots available. And as you can see, I don't have 92 spots available, and so that's going to make it really, really difficult for me to do things like this, because, some people just like to do mass summoning, and that is going to be much more difficult in the situation where you don't have inventory. So you're going to have to spend the gold, spend the gems to increase the inventory slots. So I know that is one that is going to be a little bit difficult for people to really. I guess that could be one that people won't be as happy about. That's one I think I could see as one that probably will be more controversial. And then the other one is obviously going to be just the fact that the speed is now a little bit nerfed. So a lot of people who are using a lot of the Swift, a lot of people who are using the Swift sets, because the speed is also reduced now from 25% to, I think, 12%. So people who are relying on it might now need to re-gear also. But the nice thing is, at least you will be able to use the filter of the artifacts to be able to be able to get rid of any ones that you don't need or want, and then you could also now equip and unequip for free during this time. And so overall, I think that with each balancing change, I think there's always going to be things that people really, really love and people that really, really hate. In my opinion, right now, overall, I like the changes, and there are a couple that I think will be unpopular for sure, but overall I'm pretty happy with this. So what do you think? What are your thoughts about the changes? This is coming next week. 0.36 patch is coming out, and so be ready for it. Hopefully you guys have gotten a better idea on all the changes I've talked about. Again, I'll have this in the timestamp so that you can just skip ahead to see what you want to see. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Again, sorry for the longer video. Need to go through all of these in more detail so that I could explain more. Let me know in the comments below what you think and what are some of the what are your thoughts? What are the things that you really like and things that you dislike? Let's have a discussion about that. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot for your time. That's going to be it from me for today, and I will see you in the next episode where I go back to doing more of the campaign guides. All right. Take care. Bye now.